On a serene October morning in 2004, the quietude of Nowell, County Dublin, was deceptive. The O'Reilly residence, a charming three-bedroom bungalow known as Lambay View, exuded warmth from the outside. Yet, lurking within its walls lay a scene of chilling horror. Rachel O'Reilly, a 30-year-old mother, mysteriously failed to pick up her son from preschool. Concerned, the teacher contacted Rachel's husband, Joe, at work. Joe, in a state of panic, urged his mother-in-law, Rose, to check on Rachel at home. The moment Rose stepped inside, a sense of foreboding enveloped her. The eerie quiet was overwhelming. The house was in disarray, with shattered glass and toppled furniture indicating a violent struggle. Frantically searching for her daughter, Rose's calls went unanswered. Her worst fears were realized upon entering the main bedroom, where she discovered Rachel's lifeless body, brutally battered. The gardaí were swiftly on the scene. Initially, they suspected a botched burglary, but the unfolding investigation revealed a web of deceit, driven by lust, greed, and ambition. Shockingly, all clues pointed to one individual, Rachel's own husband, Joe O'Reilly, a man who had appeared nothing but affable and loving. Rachel Callaly's journey began in Dublin on October 10, 1973, as the child of a young, unmarried mother. Her life took a fortunate turn when she was adopted by Jim and Rose Callaly, a warm-hearted couple who provided a nurturing and middle-class environment in Ireland's vibrant capital. Alongside her two adoptive brothers, Declan and Paul, Rachel's early years were enriched by the addition of two more siblings, Tony and Anne, as the Callalys continued their journey of adoption. Rachel grew up to be an energetic, adventurous young woman, constantly keeping her parents on their toes. Her love for sports and her outgoing personality made her popular among peers and beloved by her family. This tight-knit family unit briefly relocated to Australia when Rachel was 14, but their hearts remained in Ireland, leading to their return. At 17, Rachel's path crossed with Joe O'Reilly's at Arnott's department store, where she worked part-time. Joe, born in April 1972 into a Dublin middle-class family, exuded leadership qualities as the second eldest of four siblings. His life was marked by both joy and challenges, as his family supported his youngest sister, born with Down syndrome and blindness. The dissolution of his parents' marriage and his father's subsequent move to England deeply affected Joe. Rachel and Joe, both tall and charismatic, quickly discovered common ground beyond their physical attributes. Their shared ambition, sociability, and interest in softball drew them closer. Their relationship blossomed into romance, leading to a magical proposal atop the Eiffel Tower in Paris in 1994. Married in April 1997, the couple embarked on a Kenyan honeymoon, returning to Dublin to focus on their careers. Joe excelled as a team leader at a software company, while Rachel worked in a solicitor's office. They balanced their hard work with a vibrant social life and close family ties. The birth of their sons, Luke in March 2000 and Adam the following year, completed their family. Desiring a nurturing environment for their children, they moved to Nowell, a quaint village north of Dublin known for its tight-knit community and serene, safe atmosphere. Despite initial concerns from friends and family about the quiet lifestyle, Rachel thrived in Nowell, embracing her role as a sales agent for Avon and Tupperware, which allowed her to work from home and engage with the community. Rachel was widely recognized as a devoted mother, while Joe was seen as a proud, doting father. However, beneath this idyllic facade, Joe's frequent absences hinted at a more complex reality within the family. Joe O'Reilly, with his effervescent personality and raw ambition, rapidly ascended the corporate ladder in the advertising world. Despite a lack of formal qualifications, he made a significant impact in his field and secured a managerial role at Viacom, an outdoor advertising company following the birth of his youngest son. His career often demanded travel, leaving Rachel to manage home affairs, a role she handled with independence and capability. Suspicion arose when a friend of Rachel's, through a connection at Viacom, discreetly inquired about Joe's frequent overnight business trips, only to discover that Joe's job did not require such travel. This revelation raised questions about his whereabouts during these absences. Although Rachel may have harbored suspicions, she maintained her privacy and chose not to discuss her marital issues openly. Friends observed signs of strain in the marriage, but Rachel remained tight-lipped about the details. Whispers of an extramarital affair began to circulate, but Rachel initially dismissed them. However, both she and Joe confided in friends about the lack of intimacy in their marriage, a situation that troubled Rachel. She humorously brushed off the affair rumors, citing Joe's apparent disinterest in sexual relations as contradictory to the notion of him seeking a relationship elsewhere. Over time, Joe's demeanor towards Rachel shifted noticeably. He publicly disparaged her and prioritized his softball commitments over significant occasions, such as missing Rachel's 30th birthday for a softball trip and canceling a planned date night. Rachel, grappling with the growing rumors and her own suspicions, confronted Joe several times, possibly aware of his infidelity to some extent. In an attempt to salvage their relationship, Rachel issued an ultimatum demanding Joe's increased presence at home and greater commitment to the family. On October 3rd, a heated argument erupted between them, triggered by a mention of Daddy's friend Nikki by one of their sons. This revelation, indicating their children's awareness of Joe's mistress, fueled Rachel's fury. The unresolved dispute led Joe to spend the night in a separate room. The following morning, Joe left early for the gym, proceeding to work afterwards. By early afternoon, concern mounted when Rachel failed to pick up their son Adam from school at the usual time. Joe's attempts to reach Rachel by phone were unsuccessful, prompting him to alert family and friends. Rachel's mother, Rose, living nearby, decided to check on her daughter. Upon entering Rachel's house, Rose felt an ominous sense of dread. Her worst fears were confirmed when she discovered Rachel's bloodied body in the main bedroom, tragically too late to help her. Joe O'Reilly, with his son Adam in tow, arrived at the somber scene where tragedy had struck. Rose, determined to shield him from the harrowing sight, tried to intercept him. She hoped to spare him the agony of seeing his wife, Rachel, in such a horrific state. But her efforts were in vain as Joe, driven by a mixture of shock and perhaps disbelief, made his way to the bedroom where Rachel's lifeless body lay. The garnered, arriving shortly after, were met with a scene that Detective Inspector Pat Mary described as unforgettable. Rachel, brutally beaten, her injuries so severe that they exposed her skull. The house was in complete disarray, suggesting at first glance a violent break-in. Rachel's keys clutched in her hand hinted she was ambushed upon returning home, her assailant leaving behind the cash in her handbag. This detail led investigators to suspect that the burglary scene might have been staged. The autopsy revealed the grim reality. Rachel was a victim of a vicious assault, her death caused by blunt force trauma. The extent of her defensive wounds told a story of a desperate struggle for life. Joe disclosed to investigators a missing dumbbell, suspected to be the murder weapon. Subsequent searches in the surrounding areas and woods of Nowell unearthed some items from the O'Reilly home, but the dumbbell remained elusive. The residents of Nowell were urged to keep an eye out for anything unusual, as unease spread through the community. The killer, presumed to be covered in blood, had gone unnoticed, deepening the mystery and unsettling the neighborhood. As the investigation unfolded, Gardaí painstakingly interviewed those who knew the O'Reilly family. They sought to construct a picture of Rachel's life and understand who might have wanted to harm the young mother. During Rachel's funeral, a poignant moment saw family members writing letters to her, placing them in her coffin. Joe's turn came last, and his comment after leaving his letter, "You can put the lid down now," struck Rose and Jim as peculiar and emotionless, though they refrained from passing judgment, acknowledging that grief manifests differently in people. However, Joe's subsequent actions only intensified the growing concerns about his behavior. He invited Rachel's parents to the house, claiming it brought him comfort, but what transpired was unsettling. Joe led them through a detailed reenactment of the murder, complete with graphic descriptions and theories. His demeanor during these reenactments, devoid of the sorrow expected of a grieving husband, was troubling. Being Rachel's husband, Joe was an immediate subject in the investigation. He provided an alibi of being at work during the murder, which a colleague initially corroborated. However, as the Gardaí delved deeper into Joe's life, they uncovered a web of infidelity and deceit. His affair with Nikki Pelly, initially downplayed as a mere fling, emerged as a significant and passionate relationship. Joe's correspondence revealed his deep resentment towards Rachel, a stark contrast to his initial claims of a harmonious marriage. His actions, including an anonymous tip to social services about Rachel, painted a picture of a man attempting to manipulate circumstances to his advantage. In a chilling moment after Rachel's death, Joe played a voicemail he had left her on the day she was killed to her parents. Rose later recalled hearing Rachel's voice in her mind, accusing Joe of the murder. This experience cemented her belief in his guilt. Despite Rachel's unspoken suffering under Joe's emotional abuse, she remained silent, holding on to the hope of keeping her family together. Joe's appearance on RTE's The Late Night Show, where he speculated on the murderer's identity and suggested that Rachel knew her attacker, only added to the suspicion surrounding him. His actions following the show, spending the night with his mistress, did little to dispel these doubts. In 2005, the arrest of Joe O'Reilly for his wife Rachel's murder shook the community, sparking a division in public opinion regarding his guilt. His denial of any involvement only intensified the debate. The case took a twist when Nikki Pelly, Joe's paramour, was arrested for withholding crucial information about the murder. On the day Rachel was killed, Joe and Nikki had exchanged 8 phone calls. Under custody, Nikki's narrative shifted dramatically, revealing Joe had once spoken of killing Rachel, a statement she hadn't taken seriously at the time. Adding to the complexity, Derek Querney, Joe's colleague and provider of his alibi, was charged for giving false information. His initial statement, like Nikki's, transformed upon interrogation. Investigators believe Derek had not intentionally provided a false alibi. Despite these developments, the Gardaí felt the case against Joe lacked the decisive evidence needed. This led them to consider a peculiar incident at Rachel's funeral recounted by her father. He suggested examining the contents of a letter Joe placed in Rachel's coffin. Upon exhumation, the letter, expressing Joe's plea for forgiveness for reasons known only to them, raised further suspicions but fell short of being conclusive evidence. The garde meticulously constructed a timeline leading up to the murder. Joe claimed to have been at the gym before work, later emailing a coworker about being unreachable by phone. However, CCTV footage from Viacom and nearby Murphy's Quarry contradicted his account, placing him near the murder scene. A crucial piece of evidence was a brief phone call Joe made to Rachel minutes before her death, along with a text message sent afterwards, both pinging off a cell tower near their home. This suggested Joe was still in the vicinity, contradicting his alibi. Joe's trial commenced in June 2007 in Dublin. Over 3 weeks, the prosecution painted a picture of premeditated murder, alleging Joe had returned home after briefly visiting his office, lying in wait for Rachel. The defense, however, portrayed Joe as a shocked and grieving husband, claiming he had no recollection of the day's events. The trial revealed a darker side to Joe and Rachel's marriage, including emotionally abusive emails from Joe. The evidence against him was overwhelming, leading to his conviction and a life sentence, defined as 15 years in Ireland. The case was enveloped in controversy, with questions raised about the police investigation's integrity and the media's sensational coverage possibly influencing public perception. Joe's persistent claims of innocence and subsequent appeals, reaching the Supreme Court, kept the case in the public eye. In the end, despite the controversy and his completed sentence, Joe remained in prison. The general consensus was that he underestimated the law's reach. Detective Inspector Pat Mary recalled arresting Joe, noting his shock and the overconfidence typical of a psychopathic personality, believing he could outsmart the system. The tragic loss of Rachel O'Reilly, remembered as a kind, loving person, left an indelible mark on her friends and family, a poignant reminder of a life tragically cut short.